Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. It is the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the share, and leave a comment. We're going to jump right into it. Without a doubt, the most requested guest by far. There's not a week goes by that somebody isn't saying, you need to have Chris on to talk about this. And Chris is back. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself? And first, I just want to say thanks a lot for having me back on the show. It's greatly appreciated.
Oh, hey, you're greatly appreciated. Your expertise and your knowledge and your background, second to none, and we're honored to have you. So I'm going to start off with like a two-pronged question. I've been saying, and am I wrong in saying this, that there are similarities in what's happening in Israel among the Arab and Jewish citizens that's like the birth of a civil war, that I'm saying that isn't far off from what is happening in our country. Am I wrong in saying that? And also part two, am I wrong in saying that what is happening in Israel is dangerous in the fact that it can be spun here at home as a justification for Rahowa?
Um, let me start with your first part of that. Um, and it really deals with, should we say, um, the Arabs and the Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
That the whole Civil War part is very real, as you can see right now,
Right.
in the Middle East, especially in Israel. All right. Um, but I want to make this perfectly clear that this whole Arab Jewish thing has not been going on for like 3,000, 4,000 years. This is actually pretty recent. The fighting has actually started, I'd say, back in 1940s, 1950s, when Israel actually became a state.
In
Prior to that,
1948.
right. So prior to that, actually, the Palestinians and the people, the Jews, actually got along pretty well. But it wasn't until the state of Israel um, came about. That's when all the fighting started. And I don't know, just historically, how the state of Israel was actually um, founded. It wasn't due to the I guess it was the United Nations
Right.
putting it together. It was actually, and we studied this in when I was in grad school for national security studies. Um, Menachem Begin, who
Yeah.
was who was actually, I think, the seventh prime minister or
Mhm.
prime minister of Israel. Um, he had started a group called the Irgun, which in fact was a terrorist group, and the Irgun was actually pushed the British mandate out of Palestine, but then also pushed out a lot of the Palestinians, killed a lot of Palestinians. There were a lot of mass killings of the Palestinians, a lot of bombings of the British mandate, because they were trying to make a way for Israel to become a state. And this is the way they did it, through the use of through terrorism and violence. See, a lot of people don't know that. And like I said, when I was in grad school, this is stuff that we studied. But furthermore, I used to train with the Israelis in Israel and the West Bank, train with the Israeli police and their internal security service. So I have a pretty good knowledge base
Yeah.
on how things actually transpire.
Yeah.
So
And so many times it's like this, that we have a story that we have been told and that is accepted, and yet it is a fabrication, so that things are palatable, as opposed to what is really going on in creating the nation of Israel.
right, right. So that's actually how Israel was formed. It was actually formed through terrorism and violence, as opposed to the narrative that they told everyone.
Yeah, there was a Paul Newman was great in it. A movie about the creation of the state of Israel.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and I don't remember the name of it right off, but it just popped into my head. So part two now. Um, assuming things escalate in Israel as it appears they are doing, um, does that justify action back here in the United States? In that, two part to that, we have Arabs and we have Jews living here peacefully. Does that violence make its way over here?
It's already made its way. I think in France they've
Right.
started, they've started acting up a little bit.
Right.
Um,
Berlin, France, Athens, Greece.
right. It's all it is. It's just a snowball effect.
Right. Does it snowball all the way over here?
Eventually, it's very possible it will.
That's what I've been saying.
If it's happening in this country, all these other countries, what makes you think it's not going to happen here?
Right.
That's just the logic of it. So, we don't want the Arab, Jewish violence to happen here in this country because there's no reason for it.
No.
That's over there. That's Hamas,
So,
and
you support your side, and you support your side, and you leave it over there.
Right. And that's the battleground over there. Don't bring the battleground over here.
Right. But
so.
But we know that eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen. So
yeah,
it's just a heads up. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Now, am I stretching it in that that the far right wing Christian community, the ones that support the idea of Rahowa, that they're going to look at what's happening in Israel specifically and say this is a sign that we've got to cleanse Israel and we've got to cleanse our own country.
You know what? That's a pretty good that's a good way of looking at it. And I never really looked at it that in that manner. But the Christian evangelicals, the hardliners that really believe, that Israel is God's apple of the eye, and that the Jewish people are God's chosen people, and it's time, and Christ might be making his return. This might be the time to, get rid of the Arabs or the Palestinians or whoever else.
And the Muslim, just get rid of the Muslims, and every black person is automatically a Muslim.
Right, but
that's not a stretch, is it?
No, but here's the thing: people have to realize that just because you're an Arab, okay, does not make you a Muslim.
Right.
They're Arab Christians.
Right.
They're Arab Jews.
Right.
Just because you are an Arab does not make you a Muslim at all.
Right. And it's important that we say these things, and it's important. I'm hoping people hear it, because there are too many, especially in our country, that make those assumptions.
Right. And those are actually really bad assumptions.
Absolutely.
So
dangerous assumptions.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you surprised how fast this has escalated?
Barry, this stuff happens once a year. You know that, right? Seriously, this happens once a year between Israel and Hamas.
Generally around Ramadan.
Yeah, you heard about the intifadas, right?
Right.
And they talk about the third intifada, the fourth intifada. That's probably what they're saying right now. This is like a third or fourth intifada.
I think it's 3, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the whole thing about it is, when you take a look at this, and like I said, it happens every year. They said last year was going to be the big one. The year before that was going to be a big one. Which one's really going to be the big one? And I think I discussed this maybe last time I was on your show. Netanyahu was supposed to step down, or was supposed to be relieved.
Towards the end of last calendar year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I guess he was voted out, or I think there's a new president or prime minister coming in, right? And it just, it just seems like right before, you're supposed to step down out of office, all this stuff starts to happen. And now, you're not going to step down, or I'm not sure if he is going to step down or not, but just the timing of it,
yeah,
right? So,
because you say that that nothing's coincidence, that things
right,
are planned.
right, right. And then we always talk about the book, The Art of War,
Mhm.
right? In The Art of War, we talk about how um, um,
All wars based.
all warfare is based upon deception. Okay, all warfare is based upon deception.
So Netanyahu is blowing this up in order to stay in power is a conceivable possibility.
Anything's possible, right? I'm not saying it's probable.
Right, right.
I'm not saying it's probable, but it is
But it's
possible.
not out of the question.
Right? It's not. I mean, it's not out of question. Not like you've seen this in other countries as well,
We tried it here at home.
right? I mean,
Trying to keep people
so,
trying to keep Trump in power by
so what makes you think any other countries any different than us? And people are people all the same all around the world.
yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Okay, now I'm gonna pop up I'm gonna pop up a map here. Hopefully. There we go. Okay. Israel right here. The Gaza Strip is this little area just at the very tip of Israel, with Egypt over here.
Yep.
And Jordan to the east.
Yep.
And then we go up here to Damascus.
We got Lebanon and that
Lebanon,
and to the right of that is going to be Damascus, which is in Syria.
Syria. And then above that,
it should be Turkey.
Above that should be Turkey. Let's zoom out. There we go. Above Syria is Turkey. So here we've got a good view of the area. Mm-hmm. And how small Jerusalem is, and then we got to remember how small Gaza is. Right. Now, Turkey, the Turkish prime minister, I said a few shows back, I overheard this thing, and I just happened to, Turkey's going to get involved, and it wasn't a report, it was just hearsay. And then 3 days later, the Turkish prime minister comes out and says, or the president of Turkey, all Muslim countries should unite. And I also said last night that normally we may not take that very seriously, all Muslim countries unite, because of the Sunni and Shia factions. But as much as they dislike each other, they really all hate Israel. So this could be a time that they could unite.
Exactly. And that's, what I want to talk about.
Right.
Hamas is a Sunni group, a Sunni Muslim group. We'll call them an insurgent group or a terrorist group, whatever you want to call them. All right.
Militants.
Militants, right. And that's how they see themselves. All right. But then you have to deal with Hezbollah from Lebanon.
Right.
And Hezbollah is a Shia group. Right. Iran, who's also Shia.
Yeah.
A Shia country. And then you're dealing with Syria, who is also Shia.
Right.
But then you have Al Qaeda, which is a Sunni, and then also you have ISIS, which is also Sunni. But they have one common enemy, Israel.
And it used to be Israel and the United States, but now I think the focus is going to be solely on Israel if this does escalate.
Right. So but then also you have down there in Egypt, the whatever. I think you have some groups there in Egypt, some militants that don't like Israel, but then also go down to Sudan. They have groups in there that don't like Israel, even though I don't know if your audience knows that, like Sudan and Israel has started, forging ties together along with like other groups like in the UAE,
The United
and
Arab Emirates.
right, and they started forging ties with Israel as well, right? And then
Yeah, they signed the Abraham Accord
right,
in September of last year.
exactly,
Now,
exactly.
does that mean they stay out of any conflict, or does that mean they come in on the side of Israel? It-
Well, let me say this much. Before in the past that Israel and the UAE were not on best terms.
right.
I'm telling you that right now.
Hmm.
Um, and also with Sudan and Israel, they were North Sudan and Israel were not on best terms. So, just because you're on good terms now doesn't mean you're going to stay on good terms.
Right.
Anything you can turn, and in a heartbeat. And I think Iran came out and said something today, something to the fact that what, if you keep bombing, um, Gaza, we're going to get involved. So now you have Iran possibly getting involved, which they were looking to do anyway,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And you have Hezbollah looking to get involved, because if um, Iran says we're getting involved, then automatically Hezbollah is getting involved, and then
Right.
Syria is getting involved too. All right. So you have those three that you need to be concerned about, and then also ISIS and AQ possibly getting involved with that.
And
And
a
then
lot of and a lot of Al Qaeda or AQ, they're in Iraq,
right,
correct?
right,
Specifically southern Iraq.
right. And then as you can see, it's not that far. They can travel to
No.
Jordan, and then from
Yeah.
Jordan, you know, and
Yeah.
then and then from Jordan over to that's just like the West Bank,
Right.
and then they can just travel over to Israel. So it's not like it's that far.
Right.
It really isn't. But then
Now,
all
can Iranian missiles hit Egypt
Egypt
launched
or
from,
Israel,
or I'm sorry, hit Israel launched from Iran, or does Iran have to move closer in order to be effective in trying to target?
all they have to really do is because you keep in mind, Iran arms Hezbollah.
Hmm.
So like if they're going to attack, the attack might not come from Iran. The
They'll
attack,
just ship their stuff to Hezbollah in
right,
Lebanon.
right, and Hezbollah will actually attack from Lebanon. They
Yeah,
can shoot the rockets
from
from North Lebanon into Israel, and same with Syria.
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a long way. But I mean, Iran can hit them, yeah, no doubt. But Israel's defense systems are really good.
Oh, this Iron Dome that we've been seeing. Um, we don't have that technology in the United States, do we? We can't hit missiles.
I think we can.
You think we can?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We can bring down missiles all the time. That's not a problem. That's really not a problem for us.
Okay.
The issue is the amount of rockets and missiles that are being shot at Iron Dome. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that system can only take but so much.
And I was going to ask about that too. Could it be that there is a long game here, that the short game is Hamas keep firing missile after missile after missile from Gaza into this Iron Dome to weaken it, so when Iran launches the effective missiles, there's not so much the Iron Dome can
Right,
do.
and that could be a very good strategy. That's a very possible strategy. Hey, you know what? We'll weaken the Iron Dome. We'll just bombard it with all the missiles, and then once it collapses, guess what? We got more missiles coming
Right.
from
We get the big missiles.
Syria, and we'll just crash, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and wherever else.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a very real possibility.
So while Israel does have some, Israel's got some potential allies in the area, in that they've signed agreements with the UAE and they're working to solidify something with Jordan. If push comes to shove, Israel's going to be standing alone,
pretty
and
much.
and then it becomes United States and NATO, and then it becomes China and Russia on the other side. Is that
That's pretty much what I'm looking at right now, you know. And who knows, we might step back,
yeah,
we might step back.
which probably wouldn't be a bad idea as long as Russia and China step back too.
Right. But, here's the thing. If Russia and China get involved, then we definitely have to, you know, we have to hold Israel down, give them a lot more backing. We really
Yeah.
do. So,
Now, given them more backing, um, I assume we would be an incredibly long way from ever having to insert troops. But as far as involvement with possible Navy or Air Force, could it escalate so something like that happens relatively quickly?
yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is, don't, that's CENTCOM over there anyway. So, they're going to have troops stationed somewhere, and
Good point. Yeah, yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking America's sending troops from America, but we got troops.
yeah,
We just pulled out of Afghanistan.
right, right. So, it's not like we can't send troops,
Respond quickly if
right,
necessary.
if something, if we really needed to. But um, Air Force, that's very real. I can see us possibly hitting Lebanon or even Syria. You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
you have to remember, Hezbollah is the political, or is the action arm of the political party.
Mhm.
That's the militant arm. And just like, I think Hamas is almost like, even though you have the Palestinian Authority, and they,
Hamas is the authority.
right, and I'm not too sure, if they have like an action arm or a militant arm that would protect the Palestinian Authority. I think they have like law enforcement guys that do that, but um, you know the action arm of Hamas is, it's just Hamas, and it's it's a very violent militant group all the way around. You know,
Right.
it, it's not. I mean, they're political, right? But then there's also the whole militant arm of Hamas.
Yeah. Kind of like the Irish Republican Army used to be.
Right, right. And then the same way with Hezbollah as
Yeah.
well.
Up in
So, um, and I think people have to take a look at it, like, from that standpoint.
Okay. I saw a 6-second YouTube clip of Turkish troops supposedly preparing to put boots on the ground in the Gaza Strip. Is
And
that even feasible? I thought the clip was a fake because they were loading onto a transport plane. And I'm thinking there's no way you're going to fly a transport plane into Gaza.
okay, well, what they could do is, they could, if they get clearance from Egypt, right, to come in, and they could just, like, really just drive up into,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
you're not gonna fly
yeah.
into,
It's like flying into Philadelphia and driving to Trenton, New Jersey.
right, exactly. So
Yeah,
it's just, that's how I would do it. Flying to Egypt. If Egypt gives you clearance, then you just drive up north, and guess what? We're here.
yeah. Now, something like that does happen. Does that put pressure on the United States to
Oh,
wrap it
all
up?
day long, all day long. It's just a matter of, like, how would we respond to that? What would President Biden say? You know,
Hmm.
what's the Secretary of Defense gonna say in response to Turkish troops, there on the ground? Because, yeah, we have to help out, but we have our own problems here
Yeah,
stateside.
yeah,
Problems.
yeah.
So,
And that's why I think China is going to keep trying to press to get the United States involved over there because we got so much on our plate over here.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. And that whole pipeline thing, you know, where the whole pipeline thing,
Yeah.
you know, was
The timing of that.
well, it's not, you know, I can't say there's really a coincidence or even, you know, a correlation between the two. But the thing about that is this. Um, the gas prices. Everyone saw how the gas prices shot up, you know. Uh,
Imagine what happens if it's on a big scale.
exactly. You
Yeah.
know. And if that group just did that there, then who's to sit there and say that, you know, they can't break into or hack into another system and do it somewhere else,
Right.
and on a nationwide scale.
And
So
and plus this bridge over the Mississippi River. Suddenly there's a major crack in this bridge that had supposedly just been inspected a couple of weeks ago. And now there's no way for people for hundreds of miles in both directions to get across the Mississippi River.
right. So that logistically that's gonna hurt the economy for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And what if that's just the first instance of something that we're not aware of? If the inspector did his job, something made that thing crack in the past 2 weeks.
Right.
If this inspector didn't do his job and wasn't looking, how many other bridges is the dude inspected?
Right.
Supposedly.
Exactly.
So a lot of stuff that, if there are no coincidences, a lot of stuff with some incredible timing.
Yeah. And timing is the most important thing, and that's what people have to take a look at. It's the timing of things.
Yeah. Brother, I thank you so much for giving us some of your time.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's always great to be on your show, and I really thank you for having me on.
No, people love to have you on. You're knowledgeable, and the first time we had you on, people were like, "Who's this guy? This guy doesn't know blah blah blah." And then like 3 or 4 days later, everything you were talking about started happening, and from then on, it's been, when's Chris coming back on?
Yeah, that's
So
normally how it happens.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. You stay safe.
Okay. Hey, you too.
All right. This is the American Doofus Show. Don't be a doofus. Please hit the subscribe, the like, the share, and comment. And if you want to help support the show and keep us going, $ American Doofus, all one word. You want to email me, it's americandufus@gmail.com. Until next time, it's a dark world. Be a light and stay alive. I love you all.